With so many Missouri families struggling to afford the basics of life, nothing is more important this session than providing them much-needed relief. If you work hard and play by the rules in this state, you should, at a bare minimum, be able to provide adequate food, shelter, and medical care for your family. But with prices on just about everything continuing to climb, even the necessities are beyond the reach of too many Missourians. This is not acceptable. Over the coming months, House Democrats will advocate for policies and budget priorities aimed at improving affordability for all Missourians. Unfortunately, Republicans, both in Missouri and nationally, have other plans in mind. The chaotic economic policies of the current federal administration, led by its disastrous imposition of sky-high tariffs that have raised prices on just about every product, have pushed inflation higher and higher with no end in sight. But if high prices are something you enjoy, then you'll love Governor Kehoe's plan to eliminate state income taxes. Since taxes on individual, corporate, and pass-through income account for more than 70% of Missouri's general revenue collections, the only plausible way to replace that much revenue is with a massive expansion of sales taxes. A massive expansion. Not only would the state's overall sales tax rate need to be jacked up from the current 4.225%, the sales tax base would need to be broadened to apply not just to goods, but also be charged on all manner of services not currently taxed. So under the governor's plan, the next time you have an expensive car repair or costly emergency visit from the plumber to fix a broken pipe, you'll also be paying double-digit sales taxes on that bill. Struggling to pay your rent? The struggle will get even harder when Republicans add a sales tax onto that. Instead of making life more affordable, the governor's ill-conceived tax plan would make life even more expensive than it already is, especially for working Missourians who would enjoy little benefit from eliminating the income tax but get smacked hard by higher sales tax rates. This is the wrong direction for Missouri. Instead of forcing working families to shoulder an even heavier tax burden to give corporations and the wealthy another tax break they don't need and they're not asking for, we believe in targeted tax relief for those who need it most by finally eliminating the sales tax on food. As a minority party, we know our ideas for affordability will make little headway with the majority party hell-bent on comforting the comfortable and afflicting the afflicted, especially when they're trying to out-crazy each other with Republican primaries this year. But House Democrats will make the case for why a change in political direction is needed. After 2 decades of Republican legislative rule, working families can't endure much more. I want to invite Representative Will Jobe up to speak to you briefly about a piece of legislation that he has filed today.
Thank you, Leader Ani, and good afternoon. About 45 minutes ago, I filed House Resolution 5879. That is a resolution calling on the Missouri House of Representatives to begin the proceedings to start an impeachment investigation and inquiry into Secretary of State Denny Hoskins. Like many of you, I've watched over the last 5 months with disappointment and disgust, frankly, at the lengths to which our Secretary of State has been willing to go to stop, to slow down, to obstruct, to make harder the ability of our citizens and the people of the state of Missouri to make their voice heard and to call for a referendum on an act of this legislature. Just briefly, I signed the petition a few months ago. My signature is one of the ones that is apparently in a box somewhere in his office that he's refusing to verify, that he's refusing to count, along with about 100,000 other Missouri citizens that desired to make their voice heard. The Secretary of State then decided to make up the fact that even collecting that signature was apparently a misdemeanor election crime. And then continued to come up with new ways outside of any definition of law or the Constitution to disparage, to discourage, to make life harder for citizens that wanted to make their voice heard. After that, I started helping to collect signatures myself, and I bore some of the brunt of the later attacks that were levied against us, where collecting signatures at all or talking to people about it became some version of a crime or something that should be stopped and should be not allowed to happen. You know, I had people threaten to call the cops on me, people threatened to pepper spray me, people threatened to attack me in some other way, and I think it's frankly beneath the dignity of any office in government to do that, and certainly beneath the office of somebody whose job it is to ensure that our people get their say in their government. And I get it. To some degree, I kind of signed up for this when I volunteered to be involved in the political mess. But I can tell you somebody who didn't volunteer for that. That's my constituents. That's my neighbors, my friends who got out and sought out a place to go sign that petition, who got out and volunteered their time to collect those signatures, to make their voice heard, and to exercise their constitutional right. I think what Missouri deserves is a Secretary of State who will actually lift up the voices of its people and make sure that they get a say in their government, not try to make it harder, not try to make it a crime, not try to shut it down, but simply do his job and make sure that we have free and fair elections and that everybody gets their say. If Secretary of State Denny Hoskins doesn't want to do that, I think that we should find somebody who will. And that's why I have filed this resolution. That's why I'm asking the House of Representatives to move forward with that. And I will answer any of your questions about this, and if not, I'll pass it back to Leader Ani.
You are making this request as a member of the minority party. How likely do you think this will advance the House?
Well, the only thing I have control over is filing the resolution. We changed the rules a few years back to where individual members can't file actual articles of impeachment, but this is the mechanism that is allowed to me as a member of this body, and that's what I've done. I certainly hope that the leadership of the House takes that seriously and moves forward with that. As I said, I think Secretary Hoskins has done more than enough to qualify for something being done about his conduct over the last 5 months.
But have you done the work to guarantee any cooperation from Republicans already, or will they be learning about your resolution today?
They will be learning about it today.
Happy to take your questions.
I have a question. We don't have details yet on the income tax elimination. Is there anything that can be done to make it palatable? And can you speak generally to your opposition to the proposal?
Well, I'll start with my opposition, and I think I speak for all, if not most of my caucus, when I say that we are deeply, deeply concerned by this proposal. We do not see a way that the income taxes get eliminated without blowing a massive hole in our budget in some way or another. Beyond that, it is our understanding, based on how the tax code currently works and what we've heard is going to be proposed, that this is likely to simply shift the tax burden. Our state cannot operate without revenues being collected in the form of taxes. We simply cannot. We cannot cut enough spending to function as a state in that capacity. So our biggest concern is that this proposal will end up making life more expensive for Missourians. I will say this, a lot of us standing up here work really hard to be in this building. We knock thousands of doors, we make thousands of phone calls into our districts to talk to voters about what they care about. Those of us in tighter districts and purple districts, we have a lot of conversations and do a lot of listening and ask a lot of questions, and I have never once heard a constituent tell me that their concern is that they pay too much in income tax. I've heard issues with property tax. I've heard, concerns about, how money is being spent. But I have not once heard anyone saying they're paying too much income tax or, for that matter, too much capital gains tax. But we did away with that last year, didn't we? So, what I will say is the biggest concern from our caucus is that this is being sold as something, as a getting rid of your taxes, yay. What they're not telling you is how much more money you'll have to spend every time you swipe your card. It's pretty egregious, and we're looking forward to the details, but we're not hopeful that there's anything in there that will be palatable to our caucus or our constituents.
If you had to start from scratch building the tax code, can you explain why a sales or consumption tax or income tax, which one of those two would be fundamentally more or less fair than the other?
I would actually be more than, I'm going to give that to Representative Boyko. He's got a proposal that I'd love for him to share with y'all.
Thank you. Yes, we are preparing to file next week an income tax proposal or reform that will actually lower the cost for the vast majority of Missourians to create a more progressive tax code so that working class and middle income Missourians will both see a real reduction in taxes, not just a shifting to sales tax and an increase in the amount that they have to pay overall.
Will that include an increase in any income bracket?
For Missourians who are making more than $250,000 as an individual with no other deductions, there may be an increase, but the increase would be below what they were paying before 2017 still. And we would be able to generate additional revenue through this process that can be used to lower costs for Missourians in other ways as well. We look forward to sharing that next week, the details of it.
On property taxes, certainly plenty has been pre-filed. You've got members who were part of the committee that met in the interim. Are there ideas surrounding that that you think are palatable?
Kathy, do you want to?
Yes, that's been a very interesting process. It's been great that we've been able to go around the state and hear from Missourians and what is bothering them. The committee, I think, worked really well together, and we were able to discuss a lot of ideas. The Democrats that are on that committee are continuing to work on some proposals that we will be submitting in the next couple weeks about that. I know that one of the big issues that seems to be attracting a lot of attention is applying Hancock at the subclass level. And that is something that we are also leaning into. There are parts of that we still want to discuss, but I know that that is something that will likely be moving forward because there's a lot of people that have an interest in that.
Is there, and after the special sessions that we had last year with changing property tax rates and freezes, and is there any more move towards a uniform across the board treatment for property taxes, or is what happened in special kind of where we are?
I think that most of the legislation that you see being offered is going against that idea of having different codes in different areas of the state. I think there's a lot of movement away from that. I know that I believe I can speak for the Democrats in the sense that we want to make sure that our local entities have the services that they need, and they have the services that their citizens voted for. So any of the changes that we are looking at in terms of property tax is really putting respect towards local control and not from the Capitol telling communities things that they voted for that they won't be able to get through changes that we make. So we're very interested in restoring that.
Can someone talk about the situation with the Chiefs and trying to keep the Royals, just your opinions on how things went down and what now, what are you going to do, or is there anything that you would suggest?
Does anyone else from Kansas City want to take this? Are you cool with me? Michael?
Well, first of all, I looked at it as a political grab. We were kept in the main frame of things while the talks were going on, but I think that we were actually used just as a part of a bidding war. because if you look at the outcome of what happened with the Chiefs owner and him giving money to another party besides this one, and knowing that he is and always has been, a Republican, it seems as if though we were just used to up the ante for Kansas at the end of the day. But yet, in Kansas, everything has not been finalized yet, so we still have another possible opportunity to see if we can keep the Chiefs in Kansas City.
Could Missouri repeal the deal? Could offer it to Kaufman, and I think it's still available even to Busch Stadium?
You know, and I think that we need to have more conversations about that because it is still open in order to be able to repeal it. It's something that I would most definitely like to look into.
Anything about the
Because right
Royals?
now, that pot of money is available
Yeah.
to, include Busch Stadium, I believe. Is that-
It is.
Anything about the Royals? You wanna mention?
Only thing is, one of the things is Washington Park, where one of the locations where they were talking about placing them, it's not an opportunity zone, and my district happens to be, the 23rd district happens to be an opportunity zone, meaning that a lot of the investment money that goes into building that stadium, the investors will, within a 10-year span, are able to start collecting money back that they invested into it in those opportunity zones. And it just makes for an easier process of having to, keeping the Royals in Kansas City because it'll be less taxation on that as well.
With the star deadline having expired in Kansas, are you concerned about Tennessee? Are you concerned about Florida?
Well, Tennessee, to me, has always been a concern because I think that their talks had ramped up a little bit more than Florida's. But yet, I think that we have to have this discussion and finalize what it is that we're going to do so that we can move forward. There's so much other real pieces of legislation that we need to get to besides our athletic teams.
Representative Mahoney, in 2023, Missouri contributed $50 million for the World Cup in Kansas City. Is that, like, is Missouri prepared for the World Cup? Are you expecting more funding to come this session? And yeah, I guess can maybe talk a little bit about like how Kansas City is preparing for this pretty massive event.
Absolutely. So I do not anticipate another ask for the World Cup. I think that the idea was we took care of that last year to make sure they had everything they needed to prepare. What I can say is it has been really fascinating watching this ramp up in Kansas City. All of the efforts, you know, several of us were present when they had the live draw, right? So we got to watch to see what teams might be coming through the area, and we are really excited. I mean, I think that we're making sure that we're shoring up all of the infrastructure, right, and all the municipalities are working together to ensure that when folks are coming into our city that they have the best possible experience. And Kansas City is going to be real busy this summer, but you know, those of us in Kansas City are so excited. We're so excited to show off our city on the world stage and to show folks why the Midwest shouldn't be considered a flyover city.
Has Missouri been asked for any extra money from KC 2026 or any groups?
Not that we're aware of.
The $100 million that the body passed over the summer for tornado relief in St. Louis is still not out the door because the state hasn't finalized a contract for whoever to come in and do the demolition and the debris removal. Do you expect there to be more asks either for more funding for different programs or heightened oversight of where that money is or isn't?
Does anyone from St. Louis want to, Steve? Yeah. Happy to talk about it, but I don't live there, so.
So in St. Louis, and I myself being a lifelong city resident, the mayor has been working closely with the state. She is happy where we are. It is a lot of money, and they're just trying to make sure that the money is spent properly. Do we think there's going to be a need for additional amounts over $100 million? That answer is absolutely. there is. The need is much greater than you can anticipate, but it's going to be a many-year process. Right now, I know because the mayor is in close contact with those of us that represent the St. Louis area, and making sure the money is spent properly, allocated properly, is where they're at. So
Is there any discontent at the pace of this, and the fact that it still has to come out?
there's for sure discontent, but not on specifically this 100 million. There's discontent on, I think when the tornado first hit, it was hard to get your mind around the idea we're talking years, no matter how hard we all work, not months, not weeks. In St. Louis City, yes, there's discontent, but I think the growing consensus is there is a lot of people working on this, moving it forward and as quickly and efficiently as possible. So, yes, but we understand multiple years.
Anything else?
Regarding, working with Republicans this year, do you see tensions remaining from last year, and how do you anticipate sort of dealing with it?
Yeah, so I will start by saying that one of the things I was most proud of last session is how well House Democrats and House Republicans were able to work together. Despite our differences, despite our, the lack of parity in our numbers, I'm really proud of that. I was so severely disappointed in how session ended last year, how our special sessions went, and I think that there is a lot of residual frustration in our caucus and in the Senate Democrats caucus. I will say, to House leadership's credit, during the second extraordinary session, we had more debate on the map, and we were silenced fewer times than what happened in the Senate. The Senate is supposed to be the upper chamber, but the day they threw their rules out and ran roughshod over the minority and their constituents is the day that the Senate basically turned into the House. And so my concern is more on that side of the building than anything, just in terms of process. The House is really good at kind of putting our heads down and doing the work. We're going to start moving bills quickly. We're going to do committees. We're going to get all of that moving, and I anticipate the normal frustrations, but I also anticipate additional frustrations because it's an election year. Folks are going to try to get their sound bites. Folks are going to try to put each other in bad situations. So yeah, I think that that's going to ramp up this year, and I think that the frustrations absolutely still exist. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a good one.